Welcome back to Nothing But Nets. I'm joined again with my esteemed colleague, my NBA expert, Nate. We're going to get into a trade proposal, a trade rumor that may make sense for both teams or may not. We're going to find out from Nate in just a minute. But Nate, Jonathan Kuminga, what are your thoughts on him? And then we know what we think of Cam Johnson. But first, Jonathan Kuminga, as a player, 21 years old, be 22 this season. What's your thoughts on Kuminga?
Gary, thank you again for having me on. As always, love talking hoops. And Nets. You were the one that broke the Kuminga news to me. I didn't know that was a rumor, so
Well,
to speak. You're my
yeah, it's the Golden State's interested in Cam Johnson, and they're interested in moving off Kuminga. So it kind of.
I mean, you're becoming my number one source for Nets news. I love it, but I was excited. Cam Johnson does not get me excited whatsoever. Kuminga, I think, is 21 years old and has all of the upside in the world that Cam Johnson doesn't, and a guy who's like talk about a guy who's 6'7" but plays like he's 7 feet tall versus Cam Johnson, who's I think probably taller than that but plays like he's 6 feet tall. Like this would be a yes. Like yes, I would do it 100 times out of 100. I wouldn't hesitate. I mean, the max contract is a different conversation, but if there's whatever I'd have to throw in, not whatever, but if you're saying that the core of the deal is Cam Johnson for Kuminga with pieces to negotiate and figure out the rest. Absolutely, 100 times out of 100.
I'm with you on Kuminga. He's an explosive athlete. He's an all-world athlete. He can play the 3 or the 4. He's got a 6'11" wingspan, which is about 6'7", 6'8". He's not much of a shooter yet, but I guess he shoots the corner 3 well enough that you have to respect it. But he can blow past anyone. Pros, weaknesses, cons. Do you expect to see any major improvements in? Like again, he's just 21. He'll be 22 when the season starts. Do you expect any major improvements in Kuminga, or is it just going to be more of what we saw last year, which was statistically a massive ramp up? It was a massive improvement last year for Kuminga, who averaged about 16 points a game.
He averaged 16 points a game last year in 26 minutes.
Yeah,
Pretty impressive. Granted, and it was a big jump from his previous year. I'm gonna hear what he have. I mean, he shot 11 shots again. Like everything was even as a shooter, 32% from three. The year before that, 37% on over 2 attempts a game. So it's like you said, you can't leave him open in the corner. We're not talking about another Ben Simmons added to the team. Like this is a guy that's like you said, amazing athlete, versatile. Even you said the 3-4 at times. He on a small lineup, he can play the
he played the
five. He has
5 too.
he's got
Yeah,
like he's got rim protection. He's that. I mean, in this new small ball NBA, you can't. Tom Thibodeau's not putting him out there starting center, but for some teams, he will fill that role. No, it's super exciting. But to answer your question, I know players like him probably at 21, especially scoring 16 a game, they want to become that primary scorer. That there's big money on the. I don't think he's that player at all. But if he can develop a knockdown jump shot, he's one of the more sought after pieces that could probably still get close to max money, if not max money, if he became a knockdown shooter. If he became,
right.
somehow Laurie Market, not that, maybe not to that extent, but at least like a Jabari Smith type, a threat from behind the arc, um, would make him an amazing asset. And I'm thinking of a front court with Kuminga and Claxton that is tremendous. There's no more athletic, better front court to switch on to perimeters to protect the rim, chase down. Like you'll see guys doing the Jason Kidd of kind of just, or Steve Nash rather, just kind of snaking through and back around and doing the little NASCAR circle because you're not shooting on that rim. You're not getting the layup on that rim. It excites me, and it should excite most Nets fans.
It's exciting. I would make the trade today, instantly.
Yeah.
But here's my question for the Net fans who have Ace or Cooper Flag on the brain. Would getting Kuminga really change our trajectory? Would it take us out of the top 3 or 4 worst teams in the NBA?
Probably not.
Kind of my thoughts
And there's
too.
probably ways that the Nets could probably manipulate it with rest days here and there. Like I don't think a team led by Cam Thomas, like you're bringing a lot of defense, but he would probably love the trade. He's going to get more of an opportunity to score and shoot and
Yeah,
this.
he would do 20 a game with the Nets, no problem. He's going to play 33, 34, 35 minutes a game. he's going to be the number 2 scoring option,
That would
right? I
be.
mean, well,
Um, I'm picturing we've talked about Jimmy Butler on this
yeah.
podcast. That's possible acquisition. I immediately had thoughts of, wow, you get Kuminga, possibly extend him, and then convince Jimmy Butler, and now you've got Jimmy Butler, Kuminga, and Claxton as your front court. Like that's like the Monstars in terms of defense and athleticism, and don't f with like that's a real legitimate front court in the Eastern Conference. And then figuring out the backcourt, I don't know, does a Dylan Harper then find his way to the Nets somehow, and he's
Like
leads
if the Nets are still drafting, they still, I think, and you can tell me what you think, they still have to just draft best player available. They're not nearly talented enough to start worrying about if this guy fits. Get players, and then once you have players, then you can worry about fit. But if they got Kuminga, would that change your calculus on that, or would you still say just take the best player available no matter what?
No. You're still taking the best player available and fitting them where need be. I mean, I just made up that theory with Jimmy Butler. He's
Yeah.
not on the team at all. You'd have Kuminga, you'd have Claxton, and then whoever it is. If they think Flag or Bailey, like again, that's just as if those guys live up to the potential. That's an amazing 3, 4, 5 if they end up playing the wing.
What's the upside in Kuminga? I'm not asking for a 1-for-1 kind of comp, but Kuminga has, like I said, from day one when he was 19, he was on the Golden State team that won the championship, and he played a limited role. But you can see that this was a special kind of athlete. He was a really good defensive player. He was an explosive offensive player, and you see him develop over the next 2 years. Like we said, he's only 21. What's the, as you see it, what's the biggest upside on this guy? Can he become an all-star scorer? Is he mostly where do you see, like, when he's 27, when he's a finished product, what do you think he looks like? Or what could he look like? Like, what's the best case scenario?
It's hard to compare him to a player, um, but I don't think he's, like I said this in the last question you asked me. I don't think he's a go-to scorer, and the sooner he figures that out,
Okay.
the better it is for his career. But that doesn't mean he can't make $200+ million being a super role player. Like, okay, we just saw OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby just got basic almost max money from the Knicks for, and he's not. Nobody is thinking he's going to be a primary scorer or even a secondary scorer. He got that role of, like, I use the term a super role player, of a guy that serves a purpose, but at an elite level. And no matter what he's doing on the night, even if he can't, he's not shooting well, whatever, he's going to impact winning in a big way on both ends of the floor. So can he become like an OG Anunoby type? If, like I said, if he can become a knockdown 3-point shooter, he already got athleticism well beyond OG's. Like you said, can put the ball on the floor 2 or 3 times, can dunk on anyone, like can finish at the rim. He's almost like the opposite of Cam Johnson. Like you're almost playing the opposite, like two guys that are similar in height and statures that are just the opposite of ball play. One's a cone that stands there and shoots a three and is not physical at all, and one just uses his athleticism, his body. 21 years old, and like if he can develop that Cam Johnson jump shot, if he can develop that jump shot, he is one of the more useful role players in the league, and those guys end up in the playoffs, deep in the playoffs or in the finals most of the time.
Now, we both like the trade. My next question is going to be about Kuminga and the contract. The reason why Golden State wants to trade, why he's not in their future plans, is because they don't see him as being a $40 million a year, getting that OG kind of contract. At 21, he obviously fits the Nets rebuild, right? He fits their time schedule. If it was 40 million or more, would you make the trade? If would you sign him? Would you extend him if you're going to say, 3 years, $124 million or something to that effect? Would you give him that kind of max deal if you're Brooklyn?
I mean, this is why I'm glad I don't have to make the decisions. It's tempting. But it's tempting. But I know, like I've told you this, that he's not a primary or secondary scorer, ball handler on any championship team. But like the Knicks gave OG Anunoby nearly max money, and nobody blinked, and people thought it was a good signing. So I see him in that light. And obviously, if you can fill with pieces around him, you've got Claxton on decent money. Like if it goes with, then they get your boy Cam Thomas signs at a hometown rate, like, and everything fits under the cap. it's possible. And again, you're getting an Ace Bailey or you're getting a top 3 pick that you think is going to give you much more value on the court than what you're paying them for the next 4 years. So like, does it fit that timeline? Possibly. And again, this is the salary cap that in 2+ years is going to go up a lot. So you lock him in now, 40 million might be the going rate for a superior role player, big man, rim protector. So it's I would say yes if you gave me Brandon Ingram versus Kuminga. I would take the Kuminga
I was
trade
gonna
with
do
that
that
upside
next.
and take Kuminga over Brandon Ingram as a guy that just he has more potential, and even if he doesn't fill out, I know he'll have a role, on my playoff teams off the ball, even if he's God forbid, I won't say coming off the bench, but he'll have a role. He'll be able to protect the rim. He'll be able to guard the best players, the best wings, the best bigs on the other team. Like I I like that over a Brandon Ingram, who we've discussed is if his shot's not falling, what's he giving you in a playoff game? And again, I'm kind of arguing against myself because Kuminga does not have great playoff stats whatsoever. He seemed to disappear in the playoffs. And I always like to look at where guys perform. But again, when he played in the playoffs, he was 19 and 20 years old. He wasn't legal to drink yet in the States. So it's like, I'll tell you, take it with a grain of salt. And I hope he'll obviously perform better than he did his first 2 years in the playoffs.
I wanted to throw out some names and just like kind of like, would you rather if the money is the same or close to the same, right? For the Nets, right? The Nets have all this cap space. I don't know what they're going to do with it next season, but let's say they're going to sign a free agent. And I think I know your answer to all of these, but I want to hear it from you first so that Net fans don't say that I'm crazy. So same money,
Go for it.
Kuminga or Randall, who would you sign? For the Net, if you're the Nets.
Kuminga.
Kuminga. Kuminga or Brandon Ingram?
Yeah, I just told you Kuminga. Same.
Right.
Although I had an argument
Kuminga
with a Nets fan last night that was Kuminga, or I mean not Kuminga, but he was all over the Julius Randle train, and I just had to convince him that was, I don't know, it's the path to the first round. I don't know if it's the path to sustained winning. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Kuminga or Jalen Green?
Oh man, it's a toss up. I'm going with Kuminga, but it's 51-49. It's close.
Okay, I didn't think it would be that close. Kuminga, and this is going to upset that fan. So same money, you can only sign one guy. Kuminga, Cam Thomas. Let him down easy.
I mean, you probably know my answer. I'm just thinking of the
I thought you
timeline.
would have answered the question. I didn't see this being complicated. They're about the same age, roughly. Cam's a year older.
Yeah, if you're talking about, I'm thinking of what would actually happen. Like Kuminga would be traded to the Nets. They would probably have to give him that max money when they made the trade, right? So this would happen. This happened now, and then Cam Thomas goes off this year. It's just Cam Thomas. You can wait on this year and see how he does, and then possibly pay him. If he's a 16 point a game scorer and he ends up more of a 6 man looking role, like we've compared him to Lou Will and those type of guys, Crawford's. Like if he's that, and then you can give him a $30 million deal, 25 million a year type of deal that he's willing to accept, like might be better value there. 4 years, 100 for Cam, something like that, rather than giving Kuminga 4 years, 220 or whatever he's asking for. So that's value and the timeline of what would play out in that situation plays a role. But if it was like even money, 25 mil, 30 mil each, I'm probably going Kuminga.
We
But
talked about
close,
we
super
mentioned
close.
the OG we mentioned the OG contract before, and like you said, no one blinked at it. No one blinked at it because OG. You saw the difference in the Knicks when OG played versus when he didn't. It was night and day, right? That's why. But that's top dollar. That is absolute top, and they could give him top dollar because they have Bridges and they have Brunson's they have other guys who took good contracts. But the OG
Vincenzo,
contract is they have other
good contract.
guys. It's fantastic. They have other guys who took good contracts, so they're able to give OG top dollar. And you can
Mhm.
see the difference when OG played versus when he didn't. Like if I'm the Nets, I'm not giving OG $40 million. It doesn't make any sense for me, right? Like you said, he's a super role player. Well, I don't have any good players for him to play a role too. So OG got that money, that $40 million, because he fit for the Knicks. And I'm kind of making the same argument. I would give the money to Kuminga because he fits for the Nets. He's the right age. He's a versatile skill set. He can put the ball on the floor. He can defend multiple positions. He's not a 3-level scorer yet, but his, like I said, the corner three has gotten better, right? Like you have to at least respect it at this point. There's a lot that you can do with him.
But hold
So
on,
to
Gary. The
me,
3-level score. I think the term 3-level score to me means you can get a bucket on your own at all 3 levels. That's what that means to me. So like because you can knock down a corner three, to me doesn't make you a 3-level. Like I don't think he'll ever
make
be
you a
like that.
3-level score.
Like a three, a scorer score. Like I said, his offensive cap might be OG or maybe a little bit better than OG. Like he is more athletic and bigger, but I don't think he'll ever be a guy that'll shake you off the three and pull up in your face. Like he's not going to be that type of 3-level scorer, but he'll be a guy that you have to respect his catch and shoot game.
Yeah, if his cap, like let's say his ceiling is OG, and I can sign OG at 21 for the next 4 years, I'm gonna do that 10 out of 10 times. You know what I'm saying? So like that's
Yeah,
kind of the position
exactly.
I see the Nets in. I think it works. I would now if the Nets don't decide they don't want to trade, they don't want to give him that kind of contract, and they lose him at the end of the year. Do you still make the trade because you got rid of Cam Johnson's contract, right? Like just on its face, you were able to get rid of
A
Cam
million
Johnson's
times, yeah,
25 million.
100 times out of 100, you absolutely do. I mean, it's a guy that also if he's scoring 20 points a game at the deadline and you're not able to work out the contract, you're trading him for. He's a big time asset at the trade deadline. Like he's making no money this year, and he's going to be a guy who's going to impact teams in the playoffs. Like every team is looking for a rim protecting athletic big at the trade deadline. Like guys who are in the playoffs. So you could trade him with the Knicks. You can get whatever else they got. Did the Knicks have anything else yet? Take 10 more draft picks from him. Like that's the
I'll
Knicks
take a
would die.
2026 pick. You can still have a 2026 pick, right?
They would die
I'll take it.
for that athleticism and to replace Hartenstein for sure.
So, the problem would be if you traded Kuminga, if you traded for Kuminga, and then you decided you didn't want to give Kuminga $40+ million, you didn't get any draft capital for Cam Johnson, right? Like Sean Marks is still saying out loud that he wants 2 first-rounders for Cam Johnson. If I just traded him for Kuminga, I'm not getting any picks, right? And then I lose Kuminga, I basically, you understand? You didn't get the draft capital that you wanted or the player
Yes,
that you
but you
wanted.
can at the deadline. You can at the deadline. If you
Yeah,
get
yeah,
Kuminga, he's going to be a 20-point scorer. You can get whatever you want at the deadline. You get 2 firsts and a player to match money. Like
that's true.
you're going to get whatever you want. I looked up as we keep talking about OG Anunoby as this player comp, even though OG's probably a better defender just coming into the league and period. But Kuminga is probably a better rim protector. There's obviously they're not clones of each other. But you look at his first 3 years in Toronto, he didn't really played 20 minutes his first year. Didn't play in the playoffs. He averaged 6 points, and he shot. I'm just giving you his 3-point percentage now for OG. He made 1 out of 2.7 attempts a game. Second year, 20 minutes again, 7 points a game. He made 1 out of 3 attempts a game. OG. His third
Yeah,
year with Toronto, 10 points a game in 29 minutes, more than what um, Kuminga
Kuminga
just got
played.
in his third year, more than he just got in his third year. 29 minutes, he averaged 10 points a game, and he made 1.3 out of 3.3 threes a game, shooting 39%. And then he didn't take his big jump till his fourth year, scoring 16 points a game on 33 minutes. He was starting every night, and that was 43 games he started that year, and he stepped up his 3-point percentage that year, took six a game, making 2.4, basically shooting 40%. So it's like absolutely, I'm taking that trajectory of Kuminga. Like I said earlier, if he can develop that 3-point shot, OG in his third to fourth year, they must have shot thousands of shots a week, and his goal was to shoot a lot of threes. Like I see the same thing with Kuminga. Like whatever he was shooting, I think Kuminga had similar shots, shooting maybe all right, a little less threes, 2.2 a game, basically making 0.8, 0.7, 37%, 32% last year. Like watch him if he could shoot 4 next year and be a 35-40% shooter. He's a max contract. He'll probably will get that money, especially at 21, 22 years old, like you just said.
Also, Kuminga has some some local roots, right? He played his prep bowl in New Jersey, and he played his high school bowl in New York and Long Island, I believe. So he's got some local roots. I think he'd be a good fit here. I think he fits the timeline perfectly. Having him and Claxton, and in my fantasy world, my dream world, you'd have a 3, 4, 5 of Bi, Kuminga, and Claxton, and I think he'd be ready to go next year. Next offseason, sign Bi, and then you have 3, 4, 5 ready to go. Does getting a guy like that, this Kuminga, getting a guy like Kuminga, does he speed up your rebuild? Like you're saying, okay, we don't need to tank next year. Like if we have Kuminga and we have Cam and Claxton, that we might not be a playoff team yet, but we're not a bottom dweller anymore just by adding Kuminga to what you already have.
Not at all. There's so much. There would be so much excitement around the fan base. Like who you could compare. Nets fans could compare their front court to other front courts around the league, and say who
Yeah.
like who would Kaminga and Claxton, who's messing with that in the playoffs? You know what I'm saying? That's a big time front court, and again, that's a guy who's 21 years old. And how old is Claxton? He's got to be under 25 years old too,
He's
22, 23
he'll
years
be
old. Like
he's 25 this season. This is age 25 season. Yeah.
there is no front court that compares to that. That's both under 25 years old. Claxton is a premier defender, both on the perimeter and obviously protecting the paint. That is something to hang your hat on as Nets fans. Like we've got something now. You do need to put the ball in the basket. You got to score points at some point. So you obviously can't just roll with that. But that's exciting. That's something exciting as Nets fans. We basically agree on that. I obviously would have Jimmy as my third option if I could, especially if I could lock him in for a year or two and be a little more flexible with the young guys coming in and just kind of have him in that mentor leadership, but also bully type of role. I would love it.
So there are two bases of Net fans. The one that are like where I'm at, where this is a tank this year, and then look to rebuild next year. And then there are, okay, we also own our first round pick in 2026. Why are we not tanking in 2026? If you're signing guys like, if you're trading for Kuminga and signing Jimmy Butler, you're not looking to tank in 2026. What would you say to them? They're like, well, we're not a championship team. We can get 2 top 5 picks 2 years in a row, which I don't think you can, because I don't think if you add Ace Bailey to what you already have, I don't think you're a bottom 5 team. But what would you say to those Net fans who have this in their brain? We need to tank 2 straight years because we own those picks.
Listen, I think a lot of those fans play a lot of NBA 2K, where you can just like simulate seasons really quickly, and then they don't matter to people like in the real world where we have to like go to the games and watch the games,
I
and
think
people are
that's
season
exactly
ticket
right.
holders and
Yeah.
put their hard earned money in. You can't just the Nets could never come out and be like, hey, we're tanking 2 seasons. I wouldn't attend a Nets game next year. No one would let that. Would be embarrassing to say that. Like obviously, and same with the coach. Like you're talking about a professional coach that does nothing but win and want to win and develop players everywhere he's gone. So um a lot of that rests on, but I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm also not saying it can't happen. But you're not planning for that to happen. You're not planning, oh, let's just suck for 2 years outright. That's um but a lot of that rides on the current Nets. Does Cam Thomas take the step that you think he's going to take forward? You know what I'm saying? Does Noah Clowney develop into an NBA player and rotational big? Does Trenton Watford, is he a wing that can be useful in the NBA? Like all of these guys would impact those decisions. You know what I'm saying? Um, if they're all terrible and look like you don't have any guys that are NBA rotational pieces, then yeah, then you might look at 2 seasons of tanking because you've got basically you're rolling through with the same. You've got Claxton, and then knock on wood, Cam Thomas has a good year, but you don't have a lot of sure things unless these pieces fill out. Like if everyone I just mentioned and Jalen Wilson turns into a great role player and a guy you want to have in the wing in the future, and Cam Thomas is a 20 point a game scorer and possibly a starter, and like you said, you got Kuminga, you got Claxton. Yeah, you're not tanking. Now you add that number one piece, and you're looking to be the Nets of 8-7 years ago. We're making the playoffs. We're trying to win a playoff series, and then you're trying to attract a star. Maybe you add a Jimmy, maybe you add a Bi at that point. But it's too early to decide in the first week of NFL football if 2 years from now the Nets should be tanking. It's it's just we'll see what happens and development of this year. That's what's so exciting about live sports to me. We don't know yet.
So we're both just to kind of confirm, we're both a go on the trade, and we're both a go on giving him that $40 million a year contract. They said 3 years, 124 million. I'm just signing it, right? Like I want that guy on my team. He's 21. I
Yeah.
want him for 3 years. I got no 4 years. I have no problem with it. You are a little more hesitant, but at the end of the day, you probably give it to him.
Yeah, especially like you got to pay someone, and there's not a lot of
Exactly.
21-year-olds on the market that'll pop up like that. And sometimes, like I said, at worst he's gonna be a super role player for you, where he's gonna protect the rim and guard great player. Like and but that at best is so much better than what you're getting. So he can if his potential fills out, it's very exciting. And you just if you're in a position like the Nets are, sometimes you got to take swings like this.
Yeah.
You just got to do it. Bi to me, we know what Brandon Ingram is. That's kind of why I said no. I feel like you can't win a championship with him making that kind of money and in the role that he's in. But with Kuminga, yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting, and you got to take a swing on a 21-year-old like that, especially with the situation they're in and with the money situation financially that they're in. It fits the timeline, like you said. It would be an exciting front court.
If you were offered the last question I'm gonna ask, if you were offered this trade, or you were offered 2 first-round picks and expiring salaries from a contending team, Oklahoma City, Golden State,
Yep.
something like that. Which option would you take, the player, or would you take the draft capital from a competing team?
No, I'm
Orlando
taking
would be in
Kuminga.
the mix.
I'm taking the player.
Uh,
I'm confident. I'm confident that he's good enough, and obviously as long as he stays healthy, knock on wood, that even if he doesn't fit in or the coach doesn't fit in us, whatever he sees, I'm confident I can get draft picks for him at the trade deadline too. Like, he's gonna obviously have a role on this team, so I'd rather have the option almost. It's giving yourself the option where if this guy the first 40 games looks like Amari Stoudemire after he got traded to the Knicks, and everyone was like, oh. Turns out, without Steve Nash, this guy's actually a pretty good basketball player too, and he can score with the ball in his hands on his own. I'm being facetious. He's probably not going to be Amari Stoudemire, but you get my point. If he's the player you think he is and shows that potential, then you hang on to him at the trade deadline and you hope for those top three, and now you've got a core to work with. You got a young defensive core to work with for sure.
I said last question by a lot. I actually got one last question.
Go for it.
Sean Marks, did he hold on to Cam Johnson too long, or is he playing this right? Is he going to end up? Did he hold on to him too long? Because there was a time it seemed like he could have got a first round pick for the Pistons or 2 first rounders from the Lakers. Did he hold on to Cam, or did he play this well?
To be honest, it's hard for me to answer that question. Like it's
Just we don't know
when
what we
when
got
when
from it. Yeah.
yeah, you don't know what we got from him. Yesterday, that's yeah, maybe he did, but now you're telling me that there's a Kaminga possibility out of Cam Johnson. So the answer could be yes, but if he flips it into Kaminga somehow, he looks like a genius. So it's hard to tell. If we end up getting 2 seconds for him at the trade deadline, it's going to be tough. Yeah, the answer would probably be answered. But if we turn him into a 21-year-old star that ends up signing a max and actually becomes a star, rather, that's exciting.
Agreed. I think it's a great addition for any rebuilding team, any young team to have a guy like Kaminga. I think that's an A+. So I would definitely do it. Nate,
I would want to go to
appreciate.
games. I would want to go to games. I'd want to see that. I would want to see Kaminga, Cam Thomas, and Claxton, and see like if like it's those are 3 guys, young guys to be excited about. That's the bottom line. That's what you need to do for your fans too. Not only
Would
because he's
you?
a good player, but it excite the fan base.
You're gonna come to games this year, right? When I come out to New York, we're gonna games. You're gonna come to the
Oh
next
yeah,
game with me.
we're going to games for sure. I'll go to games
All right.
when you go. Otherwise, it's like we'll see. I need good prices and good promo nights. How about that?
Every night's going to be well priced, right? Except when they play the Knicks. Every other game is going to be well priced. I can promise you that.
It's
Uh,
gonna be like the Nets back in the pre Jason Kidd days that when they used to offer packages based around the star players. They would say, "Oh, you could see the Lakers and Kobe
yeah,
Bryant. You
right.
could see the
Yep.
you could see KG and the Timberwolves." And my dad and I would get an
Come
eight
see the
pack
opposing stars.
just
Yeah.
to see the opposing stars, and then Devin Harris would get waxed. And but you see other stars in the NBA. Yeah, that's gonna be similar. They're gonna be selling packages like that this year for sure.
The worst I saw was when they played in Newark, where the hockey team plays. And it was their last 2 years, and they had already announced they were moving, and the
I
Jersey
remember that.
fan base already hated them for moving. And I used to go there, and I used to sit courtside, 3, 4 rows up, $6, $8, $12 on a random Tuesday night against a bad team. It was actually more expensive to take the PATH train there than it was to actually go in the game. I don't know if it's going to get that bad again, but if they don't have anybody,
that's why they moved to Brooklyn. But they're going to have the casual Brooklyn fans and the tourists that don't want to spend $400 a night at an MSG will go see an NBA game. Like that's why they moved to Brooklyn. Like it's for seasons like this is because they're going to keep their head above water while they're going to be absolutely terrible for sure.
The attendance is up. I don't know that fanhood is up, right? I don't know if jersey sales and those type things are up.
We know the truth.
There's definitely more people in the Barclays than there was in either the Izod or the newer Prudential Center. That's for
There's
sure.
There's a reason you're wearing a Kenny Anderson jersey today and not a Cam Thomas.
I got a Cam Thomas jersey though. I do have a Cam Thomas jersey.
Of course, that makes sense.
And I have a Marbury jersey too, the silver one.
33, baby.
That's a good jersey, right? Oh, you're not a Marbury
That's a great
fan.
one.
The reason why he stopped liking the Knicks was
listen. I was 8. My dad steered me anywhere I wanted to go. He didn't like what went down. I don't even remember Marbury on the Nets. I was born in '93. I don't really. Maybe I've seen some replays of it. But I remember when Marbury got to the Knicks. I remember when Marbury got to the Knicks. I remember all that, and with a bunch of overweight centers that he had to play with, Malik Rose and Eddie Curry, and that was kind of when I was watching the Knicks.
All right, Nate. Appreciate your time. Look forward to having you on again. I look forward to going to net games with you. You gonna wear net gear?
Absolutely. I bought those new shorts at the mall I was showing you. I'm Netsed out. I still got my Jason Kidd jerseys from middle school. Still fit.
Yeah, the Jason Kidd, Kenyon Martin era, the blue with the net on the side. Yeah, it's a good jersey.
I've got a couple red ones from when they were trying to push the red ones and they were giving out free jerseys at the games. So I have like a Kidd, a Carter. I remember trying to go to all those games.
The red ones, I'm gonna order a red one. I'm gonna order. The only one I can find is Vince Carter, and I'm not a big VC fan. Like he was whatever. I'm trying to get a Kidd one. If I can find a Kidd red, or maybe Devin Harris, I'm gonna order that. But I'm not gonna order a Carter jersey. And Vince is the only one I can find. So once I can find either Kidd or
the Reds,
Devin Harris,
they're tough for me because the Nets didn't have any moments in the red jerseys. They had moments in the white, the navy, the gray. It was like the red jerseys was when, like I said, when Vince got here. And there wasn't that same they didn't have the same moments. Bottom line.
Yeah, I think the
blue, white, and gray will always do it for me.
The red was the last year Kidd was here, right? That was. I
red.
Think.
They brought it out as alternates when Vince Carter was here. I remember when Vince was here with Kidd. Okay. It was their alternate jersey, and they were trying to push it at the giveaways, and I was always trying to line it up with my dad. I need to go to every Jersey game so I could get, Richard Jefferson's red and Carter's red.
That wasn't a problem. There was plenty of empty seats.
Absolutely,
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Appreciate your time, Nate. And the Jets gonna win this week? They're gonna beat Tennessee.
They better, or I'm going to be a very upset man. Both because they need to win, but I probably put too much money than I should on the Jets money line. So get it done, Jets. Absolutely get it done.
I'm gonna put out a prediction here. 27-3. I think it's not. Did you see how bad they looked against Chicago? That was probably the worst football game ever played. And I watched the Jet Patriot 10-3 game where they won a kick. This game was probably worse than that. It was that poorly played of a game. So I think the Jets are going to rout them. The Jets are going to come with a chip on their shoulder.
Game. Which quarterback played worse in that game?
It's impossible to answer, right? It's like when I say Joe Douglas or Sean Marks. Does the answer even matter? I don't know. I don't know what quarterback played worse. Absolutely horrendous.
Wild. That was tough to watch for sure. But yeah, I'm total lockstep with you. Jets are going to smoke them this week. Get back on track.
All right.
Get on track.
Nate, appreciate your time.
Anytime. Gary. Take care.